This is the conversation with PFlow. And yes, I'm wearing my Arsenal jersey today. It means I support Arsenal. They're actually the best team in the world, by the way. But let's leave that argument. And I'm hoping by the time you're watching this, we're top of the league. But that's not why I'm here today. You know, I run an organization as head of investment banking and a senior partner. And during the period I've run this organization, I've seen generations of young Nigerians come and go. I've seen a country where people have lost, first, a sense of belonging, a sense of community and communion with the country, and where they've effectively just lost hope. So we talk about the Japa syndrome and how a generation of young, bright Nigerians packed their bags and left, thinking that walking out of Nigeria was going to be better for them and for the future of the children. So when you ask those young Nigerians, why did they do it? They tell you, I did it for my kids. I did it for my own future. Now, the truth is, I say this on a general basis, that my experience is that whilst it is okay for people to up their bags and go, the reality is that two things happen when you leave your nation or you leave your natural place of birth and relocate somewhere else. One is that you lose a sense of belonging. There is something that has this effect of being part of a land, being part of a community that allows you to transform your life within the land which God has given you. And the second thing is that, you see, the people that you leave behind, they're not going to stop growing. They're not going to stop trying. And the truth is that with economies like Nigeria, those who stay behind have probably a better chance of succeeding than those who have left. And then when you come back, those guys are not going to yield the space to you. They're not going to say, oh, because this person has gone and spent 20 years in Canada, when they come back, it's okay, I will step aside for them so that they can thrive. It's not going to happen. You have to find your way. Today, I want to talk to young Nigerians, and I have decided to invite to the conversation a younger sister and friend of mine, Jesutofunmi Thompson.
Pastor. Hi, PFlow, actually. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. And you?
I'm okay. I'm surviving, actually.
Ah, you're surviving. Okay, so that's one of the challenges of today's world where, young people are surviving rather than thriving. When I was making the choice of somebody to bring to this show to speak as a young person, you were the first person that came to my mind because I know the way you've tried to combine different aspects of your life and make a success of them. So for those who don't know, Tofumi would speak about herself, but she's an undergraduate at the University of Lagos. At the same time, she's studying theater, if I'm correct. At the same time, she's freelancing, doing all sorts of things. I'm telling you, she's an entrepreneur in her own space, and she's also running a virtual assistant role, which she does for an international player. But Tofumi, I wanted to talk to us about yourself. Tell us a bit about your story, and then we would drive the conversation into what the future holds for the average young Nigerian.
Thank you very much, PFlow, for this opportunity, actually.
It's a pleasure.
My name is Jesutofunmi Thompson. Yeah. I mean, my friends call me Big T. Yeah, I'm not big, don't worry, but I started working 5 years ago. I was just fresh out of secondary school.
Interesting.
And then I was like, oh, I want to make some money. I mean, money is very good. And I didn't want to start depending on my mom for anything. So I started working as a PA to the headmistress of a primary school. I can remember my first salary was 5,000 naira. I can never forget. I was so excited. And when I got my first salary, I gave it to my mom, and I was really excited about it. And then from that time on, I have grown from doing personal assistance. In the space of 5 years, I have been a content creator, a mobile videographer, a video editor, an executive assistant, a virtual assistant, a researcher. In fact, I do a lot of things. And
combining all of this
with
being a student at the University of Lagos.
If I was studying any other course, I think I would have been okay. But studying theater arts is where the problem is, because I'm in lots of rehearsals, I have lots of productions to do. It's either I'm on stage or I'm behind the stage, and then I have to also work to make money. It's quite hectic, it's stressful, but God has been helping.
Yeah, God has been good. So look, one thing that I got from your story, and I would like to talk about what your influences are. The one thing I got from your story was the fact that straight out of secondary school, you felt the need to go out and get a job, no matter how much it was paying. I imagine that 5-6 years ago, 5,000 naira was some good money, but not a lot of money. It would still mean that you had that discipline to be able to leave school and go into a regimented life of working with someone. Now, what does that say about you? Does it say more about you, or does it say more about your upbringing? Is it a parenting thing, or is this something you just desired yourself?
Okay, so I would like to say that it's a combination, a collabo. So
that's Gen Z speak, so sorry, you guys will not understand, but it's okay.
It's a combination because, okay, so on part of the upbringing, while growing up, my mom would always say that if we want something, if we can't ask her, we try to maybe look for ways to get it ourselves, legal ways, and it has to be with her permission.
Okay.
She taught us to not always ask. She says, oh, it's better you work for it and then it's given to you. So at the end of the day, you know that, okay, yes, I have worked. In fact, she used to, at home sometimes, she would say, okay, work for this thing, I'll give you this. And then also when I left secondary school, I used to say that for me, I am a jaye person. Like, I know what I like, and I would try to ensure I am comfortable at any means possible, legally, of course. So a combination of my mother's upbringing and then me saying, oh, I think I want this life for myself, and if I'm going to get this particular life for myself, I need to do this. So it's a collabo.
So this is quite interesting. A few shows ago, I talked about what was my biggest motivation, and I said in that show, and I say to people that my biggest motivation was to want something and not be able to afford it. So that used to keep me awake when I was young. I started working when I was 15, literally straight out of secondary school as well. And I dropped out of secondary school, but that's a story for another day. And because of that, I always found myself in a position where I always had money because I was working, not because of any other thing. I always had money because I was working. And my drive to always get better was always driven by that. I always want to be able to afford something that I want, not something that is generally available. And for a younger person who didn't have the distractions that you guys have, trust me, we had zero distractions. There was no internet, there was no mobile phone, there were no external influences that had demands on your time and your resources, and for me, those were very, very important. And when I started to create my own path, it was fundamentally important for me to not rely on my parents. I say that I actually have no memories of my parents giving me money after secondary school for anything. Maybe my father paid for my exams. But when I was going to do my MBA, I paid for my MBA myself because I had a job. When people give me money at any point in time today, the feeling of euphoria that I feel, even if it's 5K, I'm like, somebody gave me 5K, and that's simply because I grew up standing for myself. Now, the fairness is, that's not the way it's supposed to be, right? Society should actually not push a 15-year-old to the point where they're under pressure to go out there and start earning an income, because all sorts of things can happen. People can abuse you, the system can abuse you, you could pick up the wrong values, and so I want to talk about that with respect to you, that how are you able to ensure that your values, because I know you very well, I've had very good interactions with you, and I've seen where your values have stood out. How has that shaped you to the person that I know you to be. How has that shaped you?
Well, okay, so backstory. When I was in secondary school, I used to be a very stubborn person. In fact, I gave my mother a lot of hard time. And so after like maybe a year.
See a baby face, so just so you know. See the baby face.
After maybe a year or two, I started to think that, okay, why exactly am I giving this woman so much trouble? Why exactly am I? And then my mom she used to wake up around 12 a.m., 1 a.m. and then we just come when we are sleeping. I anoint you with the blood of Jesus. I do this, like she just put anointing, and I'm like, okay, you know what? I can see that my mom is trying to do a lot for us at this point in time. And it would only make sense as a child that I just do what exactly she wants to do. Back then, I didn't understand some things, and I was like, oh, why can't I do this? Why do I have to do this? And then she'd be like, no. Give me explanations for why you want me to do things this way. But my mom would always say, I'm your mother. But growing up, I mean, I'm still young, but a few years down the line, I have realized that bad decisions, actually, there is no gain in bad decisions. In fact, it's pain that comes out from it, because you have to learn from experience. I tell people, I say, if I had my way, some things I would have learned is through the Holy Spirit and the experiences of others. But because of my stubbornness, I learned it myself the hard way. So yeah, I would say that my morals stood or are the way they are because of my mother, one, then the presence of mentors and spiritual leaders around me. I'm not going to lie, I had the gift of men, or I have the gift of men. People that, if there's something going wrong with me today, somebody can just call me and be like, your name came into my mind. What bad decision are you about to take? And then it keeps me in check.
So you see what you just said now, fundamentally important. So when I was growing up, I had someone like that in my life. Pastor Mark Amadi, shout out to you. He's in the UK right now. Pastor Mark was so spiritually gifted that if I went to a place where I shouldn't be, he'll call me on the phone. So he's Igbo, right? But he speaks Yoruba. He's with his Igbo accent. He will say, Femi, nibo ni iwawa. Kini won she ni ive. And he used to just drive me totally nuts. Now, can't I sing in private without it being in public like this? But it was so good for me because the fear of grandpa, I used to call him grandpa, the fear of grandpa calling me and saying, I know where you were yesterday and I know what you were doing. It did keep me in check, So for anyone who's listening out there, especially a young person, you must find people in your life who are able to be the voice of God, who are able to be the voice of reason, and who are able to help you. But, so there was something you spoke about, Tofumi, that I find quite exciting, is that so many times God gives us around us, experiences of other people. He gives us the insight of other people, but sometimes we choose that that shege, I want to see it myself. Until you see that shege, then you come out beaten and bruised. And you say, God, what were you looking at? And God was like, I don't know if you've ever, I'm sure you've probably come across this story of the guy who was praying. There was a flood, and he was sitting on the roof of a house. There was a major flooding, and he kept praying, God, send me help. God, send me help. So a small boat came by and says, guy, come. He says, no, God is going to help me. Another big boat came by. He says, no, God is going to help me. And then an helicopter came. Rescue, this is the last chance. You have to go now. He says, no, God is going to save me. And then obviously he drowned. And when he got to heaven, he asked God, I prayed, but you didn't help me. God said, I sent the small boat. You didn't agree. I sent the big boat. You ignored it. I sent helicopter. So what? You're expecting me to show up myself? So there are people in our lives, there are experiences that people have that are supposed to be a lesson to us. Yes. And so many times, out of the ignorance of youth, we push ourselves until we go and, we want to learn that shege our own selves. Sorry, Bale. They'll say shout out to the errors of yesterday. But let's start to bring this home. Now, just understanding your background and, Nigeria as a country. When we talk about Nigeria, I generally, I'm very optimistic about Nigeria. I always feel that there is a generation that's going to come in and say, we can't do this way. This is unacceptable. My prayers are that that's your generation. You know, I've given up on mine. You know, they've abused us so much that we had no choice but to just do what they want. The question is, what do you see as the future for Nigeria? And how do you see yourself in that future?
This is a very tough question. As the future for Nigeria. So honestly, daily I'm trying to revive my optimism for Nigeria being great again. Because it's just really overwhelming for us. I mean, a lot of things are happening every time to frustrate our efforts. But I would always say that, so fun fact, I'm not a Nigerian, or I am half Nigerian, half Ghanaian.
Yes, by the way, she is.
And I would always say, just joke with my mom that, I'm going to my father's country. I'm just going back. And she's like, you're staying here. Forgive my Yoruba, please. It's quite bad. But I would always say that I believe Nigeria would be great again because I honestly have no plans of leaving the country. I've told myself that I would amass so much wealth that I can go anywhere I want to, but my home is still Nigeria. And I honestly believe that when the time is right, the insights to how Nigeria is going to be great again, it's not going to be a planned thing. It's just going to just drop quickly for us. And honestly, I see myself as a pioneer of that greatness, of that growth. I definitely know that my name, Jesutofunmi Thompson, is going to be written on the billboards that yes, she was here.
She was here.
Yes. So that's what I
No, I like that. You know, and I think that it's important that we keep that hope alive. Let me say this. Nation building is not something that just happens though. There has to be some deliberateness to it. And one of the big building blocks is a nation where justice and truth prevail. You know, the government changed our national anthem. You know, like that was the biggest problem that we had. You know, but the reality is they didn't understand the words of that national anthem. It didn't speak to them. So that's why I understand it. I believe that to build a nation where truth and justice prevail. You see, because when truth and justice prevail, it means that people with a fair and honest living can always thrive.
Yes.
And that's really what you want in a society where people with an honest living can always thrive. And if we want people like you to remain committed to Nigeria, we have to give you a Nigeria where you know that if you show up, Nigeria shows up for you.
Yes.
Where if you are the best at what you do, society responds to you because you are the best at what you do. Not because of your name, not because of who your father is, but just because you have the right skills, you have the right temperament, you have the right expertise, and the nation is happy to have you. I think this is fundamentally important. Yeah. Let's round this off. I think my final question to you is, what is the most important thing that you want to see the Nigeria of the future have that would make you say, we've done well for ourselves?
The most important thing for me is, I think it will still remain that the people of Nigeria can live without having to survive. Because even the rich are trying to survive. So I just want a Nigeria where everyone can live. We don't have to start calculating. For me, if I want to just buy something now, I have to calculate, okay, 1,000 in 4 places, okay, how much is it going to take me? That's not a good way to live. I just want the people of Nigeria to just live without thinking that, survival tactics and stuff like that.
So that's it. You've heard it from Thompson herself. Thompson says she wants a Nigeria where Nigerians can live without surviving. I believe that type of Nigeria is possible with people like Thompson, the younger generation, who give me hope that there is a Nigeria that we can build that will be sufficient for them. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been an absolute pleasure hosting this show today. My name is Femi Olade, and you've just had the conversation with PFlow. Thank you so much, Thompson, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.